woman who gives her last 2 cents to Jesus versus a rich man who barely gave a penny. For me, the story was about the power of detachment and trusting that what you have will always be replaced and even amplified by assuring you hold it and it does not hold you. Many interpret that story like my mother, finding honor in their ability to give what little they have, and judge the rich man whose cheapness and self-centeredness are part of why he rejected Jesus. The story is a full reflection of modern day. Many rich men do not believe in God because they already are Him, and many poor people find righteousness in the very poverty that embitters them. I say that as the opening of a tale I will call The 30 Pieces of Silver, or rather 30 Shillings, in honor of my homeboy Jesus. My mother called me to tell me the story of the Venezuelan, an 18-year-old boy that had gotten lost in the subway system of New York and found my sweet, noble Latina mom as relief to speak his native language. Immediately he spoke of his migration troubles, the loving sister that had been taking care of him, and his trepidation yet excitement to go to Texas because his uncle found him a job. My mother moved with pity and devout loyalty to her community and gave him $30 and wished him luck. After, she called me with pride in a kingly speech about how we need to stick together as a people and help out the poor in times of struggle. She, being raised in poverty, especially understood that. The problem is she forgot she was still in poverty. The next day, my mother called me to yell at me because I had spent $30 on groceries, and now we had no more money. It was not without irony that it was exactly $30. At the time, I was unemployed, and my mother was giving me money but making sure it felt like debt. I was at an emotional low. I felt too old, too abused to be dependent on the very mother that raised me to be too independent, to never ask for help. To ask for help was the equivalent to asking for debt, and here I was in debt and reminded. I was ashamed, not because I bought groceries, but because my mother did not see the connection. She was not in a place, nor was I, to financially or emotionally be charitable to people that were literally telling her they were going to be okay. They just had struggled. This was not the first time in my life that my mother had done this. She was always giving away to everybody, strangers, family, you named it, and praised herself for being a good person and somehow found herself shaming me for not feeling as such. My mother would end up reluctantly eating my groceries, and when you are a woman with a master's with over 3,000 LinkedIn applications a day, you either stress eat or starve. I did not mind sharing what technically was hers, but it made me even more desperate for work. My entire life, my mother threw into my face all that she bought me, all that she sacrificed, all that she could have had for herself if she did not take care of me. Mind you, she was paying for my grandmother with no remorse or regret, giving hundreds of dollars of gifts to my friends and family, and any beggar, including my dad, who claimed to have hard times. She was a walking piggy bank, but treated me like a pig. All right, let's heal. Let's discuss. So my mother went on the train station and met this young man and sat with him, and he was talking about, the struggle of coming to America from Venezuela. And, you know, I'm going to say this, and this is going to be very controversial. I find that sometimes BIPOC people or Latinos, we can walk into people's lives and events seeking trauma bonding. And we kind of introduce ourselves with this personal or either personal history or grand history of how we've been screwed. And it's something that I noted when I was applying for scholarships. I was encouraged by the white counselors to write about how my father left me, how I'm Puerto Rican, and to give me an opportunity because of my people's history and my mother being, and it was almost like pain porn. And in the end, I found a scholarship, and I always got scholared throughout school because I was smart. But you have to apply for like hundreds of scholarships because you're competing with thousands, if not millions of kids that share your story or think if I tell a white man I cry, he'll wipe my tears with his money. And it's something that I note even a few weeks ago, my friend who is white was hiring, and he, this Latino came in, ironically, Venezuelan as well, saying about how he crossed the jungle to get to America and all this stuff, and it just felt like, do you know how to turn on a computer? What do you type fast? Like, who mentions that in an interview? I should mention how badly I date to see if I get hired by a man. My God. And it was just weird. And in the end, he ended up being a really bad worker. And we do think our trauma will get us places. And my mother has always been a person who's kind of like the narcissistic victim, somebody who likes to be generous at a cost. And she gave this boy $30. And whether or not he was genuinely kind or whether or not he was, kind of seeing, a lo mejor la puedo coger de pendeja, right? Like maybe I could get this woman for stupid. I'll never know because my mother had, it's almost like my mother had all her life had this innate ability to just walk into emotional traps and wind up broker for it, like literally financially broker. And it's hard because I've always been somebody to give to the homeless. And it's like you just give to them. You don't ask for a cross. You don't, drive yourself to La Basílica de la Guadalupe to be canonized for sainthood. You just give money. And I've always bought meals and clothing because it's in my heart, and I feel like that's my way of feeling safe, that what I give goes to what is needed from them. Because a lot of homeless people become addicts after they become homeless. People have the tendency to think that addicts become homeless. No, 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 no. The tragedy is homeless people become addicts because it's coping mechanisms. It's absolute depression. You lost everything and you tried and you didn't deserve to end that way. And life can be so gosh darn cruel. And I think what bothered me always about my mother's generosity is that she took it as a sign of sainthood. And then came the tower moment. So then the next day, I had bought groceries and we had no money. And she was so angry because we don't eat the same. My mother eats chips and sandwiches. I try to do a nice salad that really should have just been a cheeseburger and fries. I can't say I'm much better. There's a little too much dressing. But I I just we were never in a situation our entire lives in coming from poverty. We didn't exactly up the ante, right? My mother just liked to act rich and talk rich and feel rich, which is why she was so attracted to my dad. My dad was a criminal though, so he could get money. My mother was overworked, underpaid, and angry. And I felt like every time she gave to somebody, she would run into this emotional block of why didn't they give back? Why didn't they give it back? Why didn't they show up for me? And the next day, we didn't have money and it became this huge tirade. And I felt a lot of shame because I was unemployed. And here was this person who said, I will take care of you, but yelled at me every day, verbally abused me. She stopped physically abusing me around high school, so that was a benefit. But it was like I felt like I was caged with the very person that built the cage and then was judging me on whether or not I was thankful to at least have one. And it felt so messy, just so emotionally messy because she made sure I was fed, but called me fat, told me I overate, told me I ate like junk, told me I couldn't cook. And I felt so desperate, like I even envied the Venezuelan, like, damn, he's going to Texas to get work. Like I felt like my cage was, to the outside world, my cage looked nicer, right? But it rattled. And one of the most frustrating things about being with a parent that defines their martyrdom and their need to sacrifice themselves as sainthood is that technically they're sacrificing you. There were a lot of moments in my life where I remember one day I walked in and my mother gave my computer away to my cousins, and it had everything that I owned, and I didn't ask for a new computer. If anything, I'm a little too attached to my things. I give them nicknames. I'm not the type of person that, I need a new sneaker every year. If I like my sneaker, it's clean and I'm still a size 11, I'm wearing it for the next decade. And my mother was just had a horrible relationship with money, very toxic, very kind of like passive aggressive greed, wanted luxury, but because we were poor and we were raised in poverty, just acted like she didn't. And she would go through these weird moments of like impulse buying or just giving away everything and, demanding everyone to write Jesus and tell them about her. And I was in a moment where I was in everything that I was trying to escape, and there was no light at the end of the tunnel. And I was devastated, 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 because that type of loop would continue until I broke free. Check out deandrewbuzol.com for new daddy recovery episodes. And please follow me on, what did I say it like that? I wanted to be dramatic. Follow me and check out How to Be on all music platforms. Oh God.